Well, as we commemorate the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution, one area in which the Constitution has made a huge difference is in the lives and rights for LGBTQI plus people. Before 1990, very few people in our society would have said in public that they were gay. Almost none would have said that they were transgender. They would have been attacked, often violently. Certainly, they would have found their lives being made very difficult. The Constitution is supposed to have changed all of that. It is now legal. Gay marriage is now legal in a way that was almost unthinkable if you go back to the 1980s. Someone who studied this is Dr. Westman. She is a postdoctoral researcher at the Free State Centre for Human Rights at the University of the Free State. Dr. Westman, good afternoon to you and thank you for your time. Our Constitution guarantees equal rights for gay and lesbian people. What's actually happening in practice?
Afternoon, Stephen. Thanks for having me on. Yes, our Constitution is, as we all know, is one of the most exemplary in the world. It's it was the first to mention sexual orientation and to have sexual orientation protected. And so the Constitution is exemplary in that regard, and we are ahead of many other countries that criminalize homosexuality still. But in reality, on the ground and in practice, the lives of LGBTQI plus individuals are not being protected by the Constitution or through other legal instruments as we hoped they would. In South Africa, we have some of the highest rates of violence against LGBTQI individuals. For example, lesbophobic rape, or as more commonly known, corrective rape, is one. We have some of the highest prevalence of that in South Africa. And so we see that despite these constitutional and legal measures, the lived realities of LGBTQI plus individuals are very different, and they face extreme levels of discrimination and violence at the hands of people within their communities, as well as at the hands of state role players and people in public sector services.
Do we know why this is happening? I mean, particularly in state services. Now, state services is important because the people who are delivering the services, so the people who work at a clinic, for example, are government employees. So in other words, there are rules for them to follow. They're told, they know that they're supposed to be trained in how to treat people, and how to treat people who come to them for help. Why are they not treating people properly?
Well, I think there's only so much the law can do, and even though these matters are addressed in the Constitution and through other legal instruments, that doesn't change people's the societal perceptions or people's own beliefs and understandings around homosexuality or transgender individuals, etc. So that is where the problem comes in, is that we have this underlying social perception that homosexuality is wrong as a result of colonialism and apartheid. This notion that homosexuality is un-African and unnatural has been brought through into contemporary democratic South Africa. So despite the legal measures that have been implemented, those underlying social beliefs still pervade every sector of society. So no matter what the training is, so no matter what the laws are, that's not going to do away necessarily with those social perceptions and those discriminatory attitudes that are held towards LGBTQI individuals. So while those programs and training is absolutely vital, we need a big change on the social level as well in order to address that. So even in the public sectors, even when people are told and they are provided sensitivity training, that doesn't necessarily automatically do away with those social attitudes that need addressing as well.
When people complain about the way they're treated, when it sort of goes up the ladder of management, I mean, does anything happen then? Does anyone listen to them?
Well, I'm not too sure, to be honest. There are many organizations that are doing wonderful work, NGOs and rights organizations and NPOs that are doing fantastic work in this regard. And I know the government is working on setting up, they have a national task team dealing with hate crimes, and they're working on implementing or bringing that hate crime bill into law. But there are many rights organizations that do wonderful work in helping members from sexual or gender minority groups in order to try and have better access to rights and to work towards addressing any wrongs that have been committed against them, whether that's violence, whether that's poor attitudes by the police or their cases just being dismissed. So there are avenues through which people can, look for recourse, but it is difficult, and often people are not even willing to go to the police if they've been a victim of violence or crime, because they just don't have that trust in that. So there does need to be a policy where those matters are taken seriously, and the government is trying to work on implementing that, and I think that they are they're getting together a task team and a task force that is going to specifically deal with LGBTQI issues, and I think that'll be a great effort in working towards having recourse for the violence and any wrongdoing. And I know, for example, in Gauteng, there's now a desk that specifically deals with LGBTQI issues, and I mean, that's a fantastic development towards ensuring rights and protections for LGBTQI individuals.
When we try and change a culture of something, whatever it is, examples really matter. And I mean, we've had a gay premier, we've had gay cabinet minister, was the same person. She didn't say very much about it in public, as is her right, but she was public about it. The point I'm trying to make is, how important is it to have examples, whether they be in politics, whether they be just in the public domain, really? I mean, how important is that?
Oh, well, representation and visibility is absolutely vital, because that is part of the way that change happens, is through that visibility. And so something that I've looked at in my own studies was that kind of visibility through art and through photography and visual activism. And that's a great way that various activists in South Africa are making LGBTQI lives more visible, and not just the violence that is associated with LGBTQI lives, but rather the normal, nuanced, everyday lives that LGBTQI individuals live. Those are being made visible, and that kind of representation matters very much. And representation on a level like in government or in people's cultures or churches or wherever it is, wherever there's figures of authority, that kind of representation is so important for acceptance and changing societal attitudes.
Dr. Claire Westman, thanks very much indeed. Postdoctoral researcher at the Free State Centre for Human Rights at the University of the Free State. Do appreciate the time.